Hal ferried Gabbro, Chuck, and Ponder to their next stop. The raft was a little crowded with 4 people, but it floated just fine. The rapids could have been a problem, but the flood gave them more clearance over the rocks. They came to another ghost town on stilts, but this was built higher. Some buildings were dry and some were halfway submerged. The stilt town spanned the gap between the cliffs on one side of the river and a small island in the middle. A tall tower stood on the island, with metal horns around the top. It was leaning, just slightly leaning, but enough to be concerning. The explorers had been busy here. New, ramshackle platforms replaced flooded bridges, and rope bridges linked rooftops together in a new path. With a little elbow grease, Harthian visitors could now cross the length and width of the town. The biggest construction was around the leaning tower. Planks and beams and pieces of other buildings had been piled and nailed together onto the base of the tower, propping it up. "What's with all that?" Ponder asked. "We did that a few years ago," Hal said. "That tower's really important, and it was in danger of falling over." "It wasn't just in danger. It already did fall over," Gabbro spoke up. "Hatchling told me over and over. They said that tower's going to fall. The wave was going to rush through and break the foundation and snuff out all the lizard people. They tried really hard to finish the journey faster. Said maybe they'd save them, but it was a slim chance. I'll probably never get to tell them that it worked." Hal guided the raft to their next landing. The old docks were washed out, but a net between the 2 houses served the same purpose. They pulled on the ropes and reeled the boat closer to a wooden deck where they could disembark. Hal and Gabbro led the way across some pretty dubious walkways. They went partway toward the tower, then took a turn. There was another small island behind the stilt homes, which also used to have an important structure, but this one was destroyed. Blackened stumps of wooden beams were all that remained out of the front. The back wall was partially intact and showed that it must have been a great gathering place. Any ashes had long since blown away, but it was still a sad and foreboding sight. "It'll be pretty special to do our thing here," Gabbro remarked. "I could use a hand getting it a bit more presentable for the big show." They made their way into the ruins. Some Harthian equipment was already there, and what must have been an electrical cable was connected to one of the stumps. Ponder tried to trace where it came from. It led back toward that tall tower. Laying in the scarred floor was a large metal emblem, wider than Ponder could spread their arms. "Is that?" "Yup," said Gabbro. "Eye of the universe." Ponder studied it. Only a little of the shiny finish remained. Pretty bad heat damage. So they really were into it back then. Real seekers. What made them turn against the eye? "The eye of the universe is older than the universe itself. It's about endings and beginnings. Guess the whole death and rebirth thing isn't for everybody." "This doesn't look like flood damage." Ponder looked around him at the state of the place. "After they lost faith, they got angry," Gabbro told him. "Real angry. Burned this place down with jet fuel." "Yikes." "And then they decided that anybody who still wanted to commune with the eye ought to be buried alive and trapped in an eternal dream dungeon." Gabbro was using their dramatic storytelling voice. "What?" Ponder couldn't tell if they were serious. "They actually did that to people?" "I'm a little hazy, but I think they only did it with one guy." Ponder shook their head. "Yeesh, I guess that's enough to send a message." "Say, Wander, why don't you go with Hal? Ryback will be thrilled to talk to you," Gabbro offered. "We can get this place sorted." "You sure you two don't need help?" "I've got it," Chuck said. "She must know she'll be doing the heavy lifting, or maybe all the lifting." Maybe it'll take your mind off things. Hal and Ponder reached the tower and entered the arched door. Inside were murals. They were beautifully preserved paintings, showing idyllic scenes of life along the riverbank. The glowing eyes are still creepy. One of the murals was pushed back, revealing a passage with stairs. Hal led the way down the dark, creaky staircase. At the bottom, they passed another high doorway, with strange light pouring out. Hal didn't look, just went straight ahead. They muttered back to Ponder, "It's pretty rough in there. Don't look unless you can handle it." Ponder peered through the mysterious doorway. Dead people. Dead, mummified bodies. Giants with antlers and skeletal grins. They were cast in stark green light from the roaring soul fire in the middle of the ritual room. The morbid figures were propped up as if standing, and each held a crescent lantern. "Are those the ghosts?" Hal motioned for them to come along. "Sorta. They're not gonna come get ya. They're ghosts, not zombies. They can't do anything to you unless you're in the dream world." Going farther down the curved hall, they found that they were under a set of stairs. It was originally a dead end. Despite what must have felt like sacrilege to the archaeologists, they had used saws to give more practical access to the secretive structure. They squeezed past and doubled back, now going up. After a couple of floors, they reached a much more inviting chamber. It was a large sitting room with red patterned carpet and lights along the whole wall. "Do we have to go to the dream world?" Ponder asked Hal as they entered. Another old explorer was waiting there, sitting on a giant's footstool. "I'm the one going to Dreamland tonight. Angry lizard men in the dark, can't get enough." They were holding one of the strange crescent lamps, fidgeting with it nervously. Maybe they were inspecting some of the symbols on it, as they seemed to be looking through the reading glasses on their lower pair of eyes. "Ponder, Ryback," Hal introduced. Then they took the alien fuse out of their pocket and went to work. A false wall panel opened to some sort of switchboard or wiring closet. Ponder shook hands with the veteran explorer. "I'm the archaeologist for Outer Wilds, or one of them, now that Hal's out here." "Are the lizard men still angry? Y'all have put a lot of work into helping them." "Oh, they sure are." Ryback laughed at first, but it faded into a more haunted expression. "I've tried to talk to them, but they do not want us in here. They will mess you up. It's always dark in there. Did I mention that? Getting hunted in the dark forest is, not fun." "Oh my gosh. What happens if they catch you? If you die in the dream, do you die for real?" "No, turns out you don't. But they figured that out too. They can't really hurt you, but they can trap you in there. I can't go in alone anymore. Hal's got to stay in the real world to wake me up if things go wrong." "Wow," Ponder marveled. "I can't believe you go back there on purpose. I take a few risks in space, but I don't want to deal with any of that. You really are brave." "Am I?" They rubbed their chin. "Well, yeah, I guess I am. That's new." "I thought you were always brave." "Me? No." Ryback shook off the ridiculous notion. "I used to be scared, like, a lot. Of everything. Space, flying, black holes, everything." "Weren't you jumping platform to platform with the hatchling while Brittle Hollow fell apart?" "No." The very thought seemed to make him woozy. No. I was, hiding. I was almost too scared to go to Brittle Hollow when everything was stable. The whole planet shattering around me? Even after things settled down, I didn't get myself out of there. They had to come get me." "Oh. That's a little disappointing. I can hear Feldspar laughing at me right now." but meeting Ryback here still feels special. So what changed? The old historian paused to look back over their own path. Studying Nomai artifacts is what lured me to be an astronaut in the first place. But the hatchling incident changed everything. Poor Chert was really shaken up. They spent another year helping Hornfels document all the astronomical events that happened that day, and then they quit astronomy. Just like that. They make pottery now. For me, it was the opposite. My friend used our discoveries of Nomai technology, all our translation and study, to go save the world. Before they left, they told us there are living aliens out there that I could talk to. Are you kidding me? That lit a fire in me. Ryback started to talk faster as they got excited. I had to discover everything. Gabbro helped me figure out how hatchling quantum traveled, and I got to the quantum moon, second or third Hearthian to make it to the 6th location. Took forever to figure that out. Spent about a month there communing with Solanum. You know her, right? She's a Nomai, and she's alive. Mostly. Sort of. Wonderful person. Language barrier was really bad, though. I almost killed her on accident, making her run out of oxygen. She was too polite to tell me until it was really bad. See, when we're there, time passes for her, and she needs to breathe same as we do, so I had to stay until we could bring her some plants. Now that's the tradition when anyone visits her. The Nomai bonsais turned out to be best, since there's no soil or sunlight to plant trees, and you can move them back and forth from the other locations. By this point, Ponder was just staring with their mouth open. Ryback scratched her neck nervously. Oh, geez. I'm rambling. Sorry. That's the most interesting collection of sentences anyone's ever said to me. Oh, it is? The humble archaeologist smiled. We should catch up sometime. I'm going to go and see if we can get Gabbro's harebrained scheme to work. Chuck picked up all the debris and stacked it outside. Some pieces were pretty big, but it wasn't hard. The heaviest thing was the metal icon for the Eye of the Universe. The Nomai depiction was more geometric, while the stranger version was more squiggly, as Gabbro put it. She lifted it off of the floor and propped it up against the back wall. Not quite in its proper place, but at least it's standing up. Gabbro told her what to do, what goes where, that sort of thing. They didn't really clean anything up themselves. I don't know what I expected. After that, Gabbro asked her to gather some furniture from the nearby houses. She brought back the smallest chairs she could find, which were still too big, plus some storage boxes that they could sit on or use as tables. She arranged it on the raised floor in the back, so they could sit in a semicircle with the eye behind them. Gabbro set up some boxy radio and sound equipment. Receivers, boards with dials, a speaker, and who knows what. They stacked all of them in a pile. Plugged everything in, tuned their flute, and after that they spent most of their time playing with sticks. Yes, really. Playing with sticks. They had 2 dried branches with a lot of forks and twigs, and they were tying them together. Just when it started to look like something, they took one branch and snapped it in 2. What are you doing? She asked. The strange old space frog stopped what they were doing and blinked. You know what? You're right. We're having a concert, and I haven't heard my bandmates. Your special friend's got a fiddle. What instrument do you play? My special friend. That caught Chuck off guard, and it took her a bit to get past that to the actual question. Which also is a problem. I can't. I'm really bad at music. Everybody's got some music in them. Do you whistle? She made a strange face, trying to imitate how Feldspar would sometimes do it. She didn't get very far, and didn't even bother blowing. I don't even know if my lips can do that. It's impossible with these teeth. I guess that's a Hearthian thing. Gabbro was a bit put out for a moment, but bounced back quick. What sort of sounds do you make? Maybe something only you can do. Chuck grimaced. I can roar. It's loud and horrifying, and everybody hates it. They shook their head right away. No, that's not it. You make happy sounds too, right? What does that sound like? Well, I hum sometimes, the space fish confessed. But that's not really music. If you can hold a tune, it sure is. Could you show me? I'd love for all four of us to join in. Okay. It's kind of weird. I don't know. She took a deep breath. A very deep breath. Air rushed into her as if filling a large space. She closed her mouth and hummed. It was a deep, resonating sound. Loud, but not overpowering. Huh? Huh? What do you mean, huh? Chuck stopped and let out some breath so she could speak normally. Is it bad? No, keep going. Gabbro wasn't afraid or excited. They seemed strangely focused. She made the same noise for several seconds. How about this? Gabbro picked up their flute and played slow, ascending notes. Their flute wasn't pitched as high as other flutes, more like a clarinet. Chuck repeated the notes, just deeper. At least, I hope I'm matching the notes. I can change pitch at least. That's a sick bass. Just gotta figure out how to use it. The way they said it, it was clear that sick was a good thing. Gabbro leaned in and confessed. You know, the way I play is relaxing and all. But I'll be honest, it's background. Back when it was easier to get all of us gathered up, we used to design our sound around Ryback's banjo. They adjusted their grip on their instrument. If you can pad a rhythm, I can put more pep over the top. You want to try it? Just follow along. Gabbro raised their flute again and blew a long, sustained note. They moved the pitch up and down, but it was almost too slow and plain to be a melody. Here goes nothing. Again, Chuck repeated the simple notes back to him. This is probably music for hatchlings. Keep going, the musician told her. Then they played their flute again, but this time was different. They played faster, blowing into it in interrupted puffs, moving their fingers across the instrument with new vitality. Gabbro was enjoying himself, riffing a jazzy tune over the bass line. Chuck repeated the same pattern of notes, while the flutist experimented with different variations. It came together as a sort of didgeridoo, but it was definitely music and a little catchy. Gabbro paused and gave it a nod. Not bad. Is that what we're playing for the thing? Nah, we gotta make good use of Wander's fiddle, Gabbro said, gesturing down the half-flooded boardwalk. I'll think of something. Actually, it's nice work, Hal said, looking at the progress in the burned shrine. The other adventurers had returned from the tower. Ryback lifted their alien artifact. Okay, I'm off to sleep at the diving bell. That'll activate the underground lake. It should be working, but, no guarantee. Gabbro gave a thumbs up. The Dreamland team turned to leave, but Hal stopped reluctantly. I'm so jealous y'all get to be here when it happens. It's not really first contact, but first friendly contact? It's a big event. Oh, geez, you will remember to record it, right? Gabbro held up the tape recorder. I got you covered. The archaeology team headed back to the raft and started their voyage. Gabbro finished their art project in perched a lovingly crafted pair of antlers on top of the pile of gadgets. That'll stand in for our friend. Pretty good, right? Chuck finally understood what they were doing and chuckled. The things these Hearthians do. Ponder also understood and tried not to think of what they'd seen around the ritual fire. Is that supposed to be one of the lizard people? Why is one of the antlers broken? He has a broken antler. Thought it was a nice touch. He? Someone specific? Who is it? Someone lonely. The one in the dream dungeon. They slapped the side of their audio tech snowman. This setup here will give us an audio connection. Ponder's eyes widened. Whoa, this is a big deal. Wow, so he's really been alone for like 1,000 years? Until just now? Chuck shivered just thinking about it. Sometimes I think I'm lonely, since no one can understand me, but I can't imagine. Hope you're feeling a little less lonely these days, with someone to talk to, Ponder said to her. She gave him a smile. Yeah, it is better. Speaking of, Ponder said, turning again to Gabbro, why are we doing all this, instead of just talking to him? Now the old eccentric was scribbling on some notepaper. Without looking up, they explained, My time buddy was able to communicate with pictures, but I guess that never happened. We've never been able to reach him since then. Ryback and Hal translated some of their written language, but no one's heard it spoken. Since there's no visuals or context, it'll be impossible to translate. Shouldn't we try? Gabbro put their pencil in their mouth for a moment, thinking through something on the page. It clicked, and they were jotting again. I'm told they make a different type of sound than we do. We'll probably just scare each other by talking. Then what can we do? Ponder asked again. Everybody understands music, Gabbro claimed, as a faith statement. Sometimes I wish we could all introduce ourselves with music. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, Gabbro, sometimes you're just weird. How about Brooke? We all know the tune. Not too complicated. Maybe something like this. They handed Ponder a paper with some musical notation sketched out on it. It was probably more of a starting point than a composition. Heck if I know, that stuff is weirder to me than Nomai writing. Ponder could read it, but noticed, this calls for 3 instruments. Gabbro stuck their thumb toward Chuck. Yeah, she's got our bass covered. I'm, humming. She fidgeted. I haven't done this in front of them. What will they think? Like this. She hummed a solid tone. Ponder nodded. Oh yeah, that's nice. You do that sometimes. Chuck deflated. No, I don't. Do I? They nodded again. The corners of their mouth lifted, trying not to burst out laughing. Well then, how did you hear it? She asked. Sneaking around? It's probably just louder than you think. Oh, that's embarrassing. Or is it? They're already used to it and they like it. Kind of a relief, actually. Regardless of whatever magic runes Gabbro drew on that note, it was true that all Hearthians knew the tune. They started divvying up parts for the different instruments. It sounded most natural on the fiddle. I love hearing Ponder play. Joining that with a clarinet and a biological subwoofer was pretty awkward at first. I've never heard this tune with so much bass. But there was something to Gabbro's arrangement after all. When they did manage to complement each other, It was a nice fusion version of the original song. Thankfully, the archaeologists took a while to get where they were going, so the impromptu band had time to practice. After a few runs, they were playing in better sync. Good thing two of us have musical talent. The radio friend started whirring, and a light bulb connected to the data cable came on. Everyone hushed with expectation. Gabbro was grinning. Are we sure we practiced enough? And they hit the button. Their master of ceremonies started the tape recorder. Hey, it's Gabbro, Chuck, and Wander, here for the ghost concert. Once I open transmission, we're going to play a little number we practiced. Nobody say a word. We'll see what happens. Chuck muffled a groan. Ponder, you should have corrected him about your name before it became part of the historical record. She glanced to Ponder, who caught that too. They were more than a little embarrassed, but what could they do? Gabbro had already flipped the switch to start transmitting. Ponder gave a little prelude with their fiddle. It was a warm and welcoming sound, the perfect hello for a lonely soul. Chuck started her humming, and Gabbro joined in. While the Traveler song had something more, something about determination or something, Brook was just a fun little melody the Harthians play in the comfort of their forests and streams. Well, the normal version, that is. This quirky ensemble would make more sense on some kind of upside-down planet. At least it would make it clear that anyone is welcome. Our best rendition so far. Not bad, honestly. Gabbro leaned over and flipped the switch to the off position. All right, end transmission. All we can do now is wait. They waited all right. All they heard was the river, mostly. There was some sort of noise, but it was hard to tell if it was a response or simply interference. What are we waiting for? Gabbro shrugged. Even if there's no response, I still think it was worth doing. Do we even know if this person is alive? Oh wait, we know they're dead. Ghosts. But how do we know anyone's listening? After all that time of isolation, would they even want to respond? Or know how? There was a clunk. Some scraping or shuffling. Was that coming through the speakers? Then came a very strange sound, like nothing they'd heard before. Some sort of synthetic wail, but it rose and fell with soulful analog. But it was music. Strings connected to a machine component? It came through on a minor key, and could have been creepy, but it was impossible to hear it as anything but sad. The strings sang a dirge, while the mechanism modulated the sound. It might be impossible to create music without a touch of melancholy from such an instrument. That's probably the point. Gabbro put their finger up to silently get their attention, and then turned on the audio input again. What are they doing? We're transmitting both ways. Don't talk. Don't make any weird noise. Please don't make any weird noise. Then they raised their flute to their lips and joined the stranger's tune. Gabbro pitched it down a bit, coming alongside the aching melody. They added a note of hope, but they were trying to meet the ghost's song on its own terms. Next time the melody came around, Chuck joined in with her deep humming. I get it. Our races have endured so much hardship and caused so much hardship. But we are in it together, aren't we? Then Ponder came in. They said their instrument was a fiddle and not a violin, because they smile when they play. They weren't smiling now, and they joined the melancholy tune. But it was impossible for the Harthian on their strings to be anything but warm and encouraging. The fiddle seemed to be having a conversation with the alien strings. The ghost instrument repeated the same mournful statements. The newcomer told them that they were not alone, that they were heard, and possibly understood. It asked questions. Would you be open to feel anything new? Too soon, the tune came to its natural conclusion, and they all trailed off. Gabbro turned the transmitter off and put their hands on top of the audio gear as if to comfort it. Hopefully that felt like home, buddy. Thank you. The way they said thank you, it sounded like they were old friends or something.